This is an update to a story I talked about a couple of months ago. And I think a lot of you, based on the reactions on YouTube, a lot of people saw this and they were really happy about it. And I got a really happy update for you. Do you remember a couple of months ago where I posted about this woman? She gave an invocation in front of the Tulsa, Oklahoma City Council. This is back in November. And the reason that was significant is that her bio on her business's website says this woman, Amy Hardy McAdams, is a third-degree high priestess of the Artemisian Faerie faith tradition of witchcraft. And when she gave this invocation, she used the opportunity to reference Medusa, the Gorgon goddess, and the Awen. So it was a totally pagan invocation. And not only was it a very interesting invocation, she was invited to give it by a member of the city council whose name is Krista Patrick. This was Patrick's final city council meeting. She was no longer going to be serving in office. And Krista Patrick also happens to be pagan. And she said she wanted to invite someone who represented her views because she was so used to watching Christian invocation after Christian invocation. So it was really interesting. And even though her invocation was pagan specific, it wasn't anti anybody. She just spoke from her heart, talking about her faith. But the reaction from conservatives was obviously to flip out. This is what Governor Kevin Stitt said at the time. Satan is trying to establish a foothold, but Oklahoma is going to be a shining city on the hill. Tulsa City Council needs to stand strong against actions like this, and Tulsans need to remember who allowed this at the ballot box. And of course, who allowed this? It's the founding fathers. It's the Constitution. That's who allowed this. Do you want to dig them up and vote against them? All right, you do you. He wasn't all, though. Ryan Walters, the superintendent of public instruction, he was mad. Satanic prayers are welcome in hell, but not in Oklahoma. It wasn't satanic. It was pagan. This dude does not know the difference. Satanism is not a religion. Tulsa should immediately move to ensure this never happens again, and the person who allowed it should be held accountable. Again, he wants to go after the founding fathers, so be it. But interesting, prescient thing about Tulsa should immediately move to ensure this never happens again. Interesting words. Remember them. There was also one more from Attorney General Gentner Drummond, who I've mentioned for a couple reasons. One is he's been a surprising advocate for church-state separation. He is now also running to be the next Republican governor of the state. But this dude likes church-state separation. This is what he said. If Governor Stitt and Ryan Walters get their way, which is all Christianity all the time, this priestess of the goddess could have her own religious school funded by your tax dollars. I'm fighting to protect our religious liberty by ensuring our tax dollars do not fund this kind of sacrilege. So, he's right. He's trashing Ryan Walters and Kevin Stitt because they're all about Christian nationalism. But instead of just saying that, it's like he's in Oklahoma, so he also has to put down this woman who did nothing wrong by using her as a punching bag. I don't really understand that. Again, Oklahoma Republicans, they're going to Oklahoma Republican. But this is how Oklahoma Republicans reacted to a non-Christian invocation at the time. It was completely outrageous. One thing I did not realize is she gave that invocation in late November. Well, just a few weeks later, in mid-December, right before Christmas, actually, you know who else gave an invocation in front of that city council? It was a guy named Jay, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Jay Hovarter, who happens to be the president of the Atheist community of Tulsa. He gave a speech. He gave the invocation on behalf of the atheist community of Tulsa, which, by the way, exists. So he gave an invocation. You know what his Jay Hovarter's speech ended with? I invite everyone to unclasp their hands in prayer and put those hands to work building a better future for all. Very well said. And the thing is, even though he said that, all the Republicans did not realize he did it, as far as I could tell. None of them were paying any attention. None of them knew he did it. No one raised a fuss about it because it turns out if no one's telling you there's a culture war, none of these Republicans give a shit about any of this stuff. So A pagan gave the invocation in November, an atheist gave it in December, and no one noticed it that time around. Well, guess what? I thought Krista Patrick, that city council member, well, she's no longer on the council. I assumed that meant, all right, we're done with non-Christian invocations that are only going to be all Christian from here on out. Turns out I was wrong about that. This week in the Tulsa World newspaper, they reported on this, but apparently recently they were going through the rules by which the city council is going to hold its meetings, and they adopted a rule change, and I want to show you what it says. This is the policies that they were voting on. And let's see if I could get this up here. Here we go. When it comes to the opening prayer for council meetings, they crossed that off the list. Because look at the red stuff. Look at what it used to say. The council shall endeavor to open its Wednesday council meetings with an invocation prayer. I'm looking at the red only. The prayer should be cognizant of the many faiths in our community, shall not be used as an opportunity to proselytize or advance or disparage faith. Okay, whatever. They crossed that out, and look at the blue stuff. This is what they want to adopt now. What if we got rid of the opening prayer and just did a moment of silence? And look at what this says. The council may open its Wednesday council meeting with a moment of silence. The moment of silence is an opportunity for meeting attendees in the exercise of their individual choices to reflect, meditate, pray, or engage in any other silent activity that does not interfere with, distract, or impede other attendees in the exercise of their individual choices. So in other words, no more invocation prayers. We'll just give everyone a minute to do whatever the hell they want quietly, and then we will get on with the meeting. And what's interesting about this too, like, this is a very long section about invocation prayers, and they just said, get rid of all of it. We don't want this. We don't want the pagan invocations. We don't want the atheist invocations. Just shut up. Just shut up for a minute, and then let's get to work. And they adopted this policy. Incredible. I love that. And this is from the Tulsa World. They spoke to City Councilor Laura Bellis because she asked them to make this change. And listen, look at what she said. She's like, it's totally not because of the pagan invocation that got all the attention. Bellis said she was thinking about the issue long before the High Priestess of the Artemisian Faerie faith made her appearance. Sure. For me, it's been my past few years' experience watching groups, especially children, that are coming to city council meetings to learn about civic engagement, who are visibly wearing clothes that indicate they are not Christian. By that, I assume she means like they're wearing rainbow clothing for LGBTQ stuff. Maybe they're wearing a hijab, whatever it is. And it's just pained me to watch them sit through something and think, oh, this government may not include me. Yeah, she's right. That is what a lot of us are thinking when we hear these invocations. And again, she said she's been thinking about this a long time now. Okay. And then she added, and then I, of course, personally have found it to be alienating on a pretty regular basis as someone who is Jewish. Okay. So she was pushing for this change to happen. And she did, look at what she also said here. Bella said that although her proposal is not a direct response to the pagan prayer, that incident elicited enough reaction from the public to make her think that time was right to share her idea. That gave me more of an impetus of going, okay, a lot of people don't feel good when within a government setting, someone speaks on behalf of a faith that they are not a part of. And I already had an inclination from personal experience and then from seeing people in, all right, yeah, we've heard that already. So, okay, she says, I didn't do this because of the pagan prayer. I didn't do it because of the atheist. But also, when they did it and there was all that backlash, that made me think, maybe we should change this. That is interesting. I think, for me, this is why it's so important to get more non-religious and non-Christian voices in the mix. I've done this for city count. For where I live, we have county boards, and I have spoken a couple of times in front of a county board and gave a secular invocation. The first time I had to push for it because they weren't going to ask me. And actually, I think I've done it 2 or 3 times now they have actually reached out to me since then in the spirit of getting other voices in the mix. And as far as I can tell, they're never really controversial or anything. No one fights about it. I wish they would just do away with them altogether. But if they're going to have them, this is why it's important to get atheists in the mix. There is a group in Florida called the Central Florida Free Thought Community. And if you go to their website, Central Florida Free Thought Community, they have a whole page where they list the transcripts of the invocations their members have given throughout the state. And they're incredible to read because, one, they're all pushing to do this where they live. And they're showing that these invocations are actually way more uplifting and positive and inclusive than pretty much everything you ever hear from Christians who deliver those invocations. I know that's not the point, but they do that. I love it. And so when they put this thing up for a vote, this moment of silence, guess what the vote was on the Tulsa, Oklahoma City Council? It was 8-0, unanimous to adopt the moment of silence. And check this out. The one person who did not vote for it, he abstained. His name is Christian Bengal. He was the one who abstained, but look at what he said. Bengal said after the meeting that for him, the issue came down to First Amendment rights. So as a government, I need to be open to that, in my opinion. I don't know what he's talking about. So to me, taking that form of speech away is kind of taking away a form of speech. First of all, that's stupid. Sorry, if you don't do an invocation at city council meetings, no one has taken away anybody's First Amendment rights. Christians are allowed to pray on their own, in church, whenever they want. Not being able to say it whenever you feel like it at a government meeting is not a violation of your First Amendment. That is stupid. But look at the next thing Bengal said. He said he abstained rather than vote no because he got the logic that was behind what they were proposing, but at the same time, I didn't agree. So you know what? Fine. He didn't agree with it, but he understood that if we're excluding people, even if that's not the intention, if we are showing people they are not part of this because we're giving Christian invocations, maybe we should do away with the invocations. He understood that. He didn't want to vote for it, so he just abstained. I'm fine with that. Good on him for not trying to be an obstacle to all that. So I think, so far the reaction to this move that I have found has been relatively muted. Like none of those Kevin Stitt, Ryan Walters, none of them have reacted to this so far, as I can tell. Maybe it's because no one's told them about it and they don't realize they're supposed to be mad about this. Or maybe the truth is it doesn't matter. It's not going to make a difference in anybody's life and it shouldn't generate any reaction. It's fine. The Tulsa World did say in the newspaper that those rules, the moment of silence is going to go into effect immediately. But there were a handful of people who were told late last year, yes, you can deliver an invocation. So they're going to let those people speak, however long that takes. And then they'll go with the moment of silence. That makes sense to me. That's fine. I did ask Jay Hovarter of the atheist community of Tulsa, what did he think of this change? This is what he told me. We applaud the decision to abandon the practice by the Tulsa City Council. We hope that other public governing bodies will follow suit. Very polite, very respectful. I also reached out to Amy Hardy McAdams about this, and I reached out to Krista Patrick, the former city council member. I did not hear back from them, but I think they deserve so much credit for helping create the conditions that made this change possible. So good on them. Look, there's a happy story today.